No, Councillor Helen Bishop, I do not agree with you or AROOJ SHAH or any one of the Pakistani rape gang protectors. I want justice. I don't want you to have lessons learned through a so-called cross-party review of secret meetings that you and your mates have. I want the government called in. I want a public inquiry, and I would believe that tens of thousands of my townsfolk also want a public inquiry. And if this is the Liberal Democrat position, we will fight you just as we fought the Labour Party on every street, in every community, in every ward. We will put through leaflets with your picture on it saying, here is the Liberal Democrat spokesperson siding with AROOJ SHAH and the Pakistani rape gang protectors from the Labour Party, who do not want a public inquiry but instead want a cross-party steering group to fully identify where survivors have been failed and what needs to be done to address it. Well, it's pretty obvious where survivors have been failed, because what happened to them was covered up, and it was covered up because they were white working class girls and the perpetrators were mainly Pakistani, occasionally Bangladeshi, almost inclusively Muslim Labour Party supporters who delivered a block vote, and those who refused to investigate either did so because of political convenience or because they were fearful of being called racist and losing their jobs, or a combination of both. And this town is far too gone for you and your kind to blackmail us, harass us, intimidate us, bully us into a position where we are forced to support this nonsense cross-party steering group, because we will not now, not next week, not next May, not next general election, never. We will continue to campaign for a public inquiry, and Helen Bishop, as a white working class woman, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good evening. Sunday, the 10th of September 2023. My name is Raj Amir. This is a members only transmission. The Sunday night transmissions are members only. They go out live. And then depending on what my week looks like, I try my best to edit the videos down for you. Also, thank you to all of you who've joined me this evening. It means you you kindly contribute 99 pence or maybe even a little bit more for these Sunday night transmissions. Those of you who are with me on Tuesday night, I think it was Tuesday night, we did the pre-council meeting transmission. And there was a poster by the name of, one of the comments was by the name of Ibby. And I got into a conversation with him, believing him to be the Ibby who was the young man who does all the fundraising. And the reason I believed it was Ibby, the young man who does all the fundraising, is because I've spoken to Ibby, the young man who does all the fundraising, and his representatives before. Clearly, it seems clearly, one, it wasn't, and I'm disappointed in the person I was speaking with leading me to believe it was, and as a consequence I can't make sense of it, but I'll do my best to be very simple. Clearly it's caused Ibby some issues. Some people appear to have got in touch with Ibby, and I can't work out whether they threatened him or harassed him or they were just anxious it might cause some issues for him, and he's issued a statement on Twitter apparently to say it wasn't him. Well, clearly, Ibby feels the need to distance himself either from me or from the interaction I had with a man who was claiming to be. Actually, it could have been a woman, couldn't it? So some issues has gone on there, but for clarification, it's clear that I wasn't speaking with the young man who does the fundraising. Hopefully that resolves that, and if any of you are interested, by all means go and have a look on Twitter, and he's got a statement out there, and you can perhaps ask him yourself if he's put a statement out there as to what's gone on. Right, moving on. Full council meeting was on Wednesday. I want to play something first. Hopefully it's working. It might take me a few seconds to set it up.
Amendment, Councillor Bishop.
Thank you. Obviously, I support the motion being brought as all Saddleworth.
Sorry, motion or the amendment?
Sorry, the amendment. No, I'm not supporting. We're not supporting. Yeah, obviously, I support the motion. Not the amendment.
Let's be clear. Is it the motion or the amendment?
Right. Saddleworth has faced an alarming lack of basic healthcare provision for many years now, with the situation having...
That's enough of her, I think. What a clown Helen Bishop is. And of course you could see she doesn't know whether she was in support of something, against something, in support of the amendment. But as soon as she was on safe ground reading off a script, off she went, thinking she was smart. She is absolutely no, she's not clueless, she is dangerous. This woman, for a long time so-called independent and now a Lib Dem, is dangerous. And the reason she's dangerous is she's leading a campaign, it seems, of harassment. And I can't think of a better word. Harassment, blackmail, bullying of other councillors into towing the council line to do with following the script of the council's position on supporting the moving on from the grooming gangs. Moving on. Now, why a working class white woman from a council estate in Greenfield, I think, why she would want to, and she didn't live there. I mean, I knew her from her past there. She was in Lees when I knew her. She lived in Lees when I knew her. Why she would want to support AROOJ SHAH and her ilk. This is a Liberal Democrat. Someone trying to work out, is this a Liberal Democrat position? Hamdani, KENYAN, HOWARD SYKES, all of the other Lib Dems who secretly listen to me or find out a way of getting hold of my information. Is this the Lib Dem position? Because if you don't clarify, and I'll get onto the documentation to show what I mean, if you don't clarify that the Lib Dem position is either supporting a public inquiry or supporting the council, if you don't clarify that, and it appears it is Helen Bishop has become your CSE spokesperson, self-appointed, unless you appointed a HOWARD SYKES. Did you appoint a HOWARD SYKES as your CSE spokesperson to email all 60 councillors and harass and intimidate other councillors and members of the public? Members of the public. Here we go. Let me bring it up. You can see that, I think. So Councillor Helen Bishop, at 9:45 a.m. on the morning of the council meeting, sent this out to all councillors. In the interests of transparency, Home Office response to public inquiry requests. Good morning, colleagues. You'll have to decide if she wrote this herself or if someone wrote this for her. I think she wrote this herself, by the way. In a social media exchange at around midday on the 20th of July 2022. So it's a year earlier. Over a year earlier, under a post on the council's Isle of Oldham Facebook page, I asked Councillor Lewis Quigg whether he had written to the Home Office himself as a Conservative councillor, blah, 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 blah. I asked the same question of his then colleague, Gary Tarbuck. I asked them why they hadn't done so at any point in the 3 year prior. Well, why would Gary Tarbuck have written to the Home Office in the 3 year prior? And why would Councillor Quigg, in fact, have written to the Home Office in the 3 year prior, Councillor Bishop, when your council, that's Oldham Council, had been covering up the grooming and gang rape of little white girls? And why would they have? Why would they have when your own council leader, HOWARD SYKES, stood up in the council chamber and confirmed he'd been misled and pretty much lied to about the cover-up. Neither of them responded. However, the very next day, a press release appeared stating that some of the Conservative councillors had written to the Home Office to request a public inquiry. I commented on this post to question this apparent coincidence and asked if it had been sent because of my question to them. Oh, what an ego she has. Councillor Helen Bishop is now suddenly the CSE ambassador for Oldham. Suddenly she has become the CSE ambassador for Oldham. And then she goes further to a Freedom of Information Act request by a member of the public. I can now confirm that the letter was indeed sent on the same day that I publicly challenged Councillor Quigg. What an ego this woman has. Helen Bishop, have you perhaps stopped to think why the Lib Dems, who were in power during the time Shabir Ahmed was arrested, who had control of the council, why they have not apologised? Or why Howard Sykes, who was the council leader at the time, has not issued a statement as to what he knew and what he was informed regarding Shabir Ahmed? In short, the Home Office made it totally clear to them on 2 occasions that they would not be initiating a public inquiry. No, that's not what the Home Office initiated. If you knew how to read properly, Councillor Helen Bishop, or understand how, democratic processes work, like that little video just showed you a complete ineptitude of doing so, well then perhaps you would have come up with a different conclusion other than saying, in addition, totally clear to them on 2 occasions that they would not be initiating a public inquiry. This is in addition to their previously published response to a request from Councillor Sykes on the subject. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, their response to the Conservative councillor's letter was not relayed to the survivors or the wider public. Of particular note in the final response from the Home Office's Tackling Sexual Abuse Unit is the proposed mandate of the reporting of sexual abuse. Inverted commas, she's learnt how to quote. On the key recommendations of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse was a mandatory reporting duty recognising the underreporting of this crime across the whole system. This, of course, was included in the first motion of July's full council meeting aimed at raising safeguarding concerns. So Helen Bishop, Councillor Helen Bishop, the Liberal Democrat, is now openly siding with AROOJ SHAH and the rape gang protectors in the Labour Party. Here you go. This is Helen Bishop. The victims and survivors of CSE and all forms of child abuse deserve better than this. Oldham deserves better than this. Elected members should act with integrity, not exploit or play political games with the trauma of others. Who's playing political games, Helen Bishop? I would suggest that the ones who are playing political games are the ones who helped cover up that Councillor Rod Blythe, a Lib Dem, 20-year plus Lib Dem Shaw councillor, was a convicted child sex offender, and your Lib Dem party, along with Oldham Council, kept it hidden. I would suggest that those who are playing political games is this Oldham Council, who to this day refuses to release a list of where and how Rod Blythe had access to Oldham children in his capacity as a councillor, and why the council refuses to publish this list, and whether or not this council has undertaken any reviews, audits, investigations to see whether Rod Blythe abused his position. Those who are refusing to support that are the ones who are playing political games with the trauma of others. Councillor Helen Bishop. And she's attached a copy of all the relevant so she's done some screen grabs. I asked you a quite simple question. When will we get a public inquiry? Is what Lewis Quigg is saying. Amanda Chadderton. And Helen Bishop pipes in. He asked 2 Oldham Tories if they have written to their government to ask if a public inquiry, and if not, why not. So are you supportive of a public inquiry or not? No, she's not. She's playing political games because she's trying to maneuver herself into some sort of power brokering position. Weird. And here's Gary Tarbuck's comment. Now, why she's picking on Gary Tarbuck, I have no idea. All Gary Tarbuck has said is that's why you want a public inquiry, and she doesn't. And why would the government simply listen? Helen Bishop once again demonstrates her total political ignorance, naivety, and, well, she is, look, highlighted. As a Tory councillor, have you written to the government? And then straight away, AROOJ SHAH, and you'll have to decide whether this was predetermined beforehand, because Helen Bishop decided she needed to copy in all 60 councillors. So AROOJ SHAH responds to all 60 councillors. Thank you, Helen, for sharing these emails, for the work you have done to bring a sense of real transparency around the issue of a public inquiry. Where is the real transparency, you pair of... Our priority as councillors should be that victims of sexual abuse and exploitation feel able to come forward and receive support and protection. What utter nonsense. What utter nonsense. The political game playing on this issue has to stop. No, we have not even warmed up yet. We're going to take this council away from you, AROOJ SHAH, and Helen Bishop. If this is the official Liberal Democrat position, that you're with the council, as your follow-up email suggests, hi AROOJ, thank you for your response. I hope this information helps to focus people's attention and support for the job in hand. What is the job in hand? Which is making Oldham a safer place for our young people. How are you going to do that, Helen Bishop? Every member, Helen Bishop, Councillor Helen Bishop, now wants every member to support the cross-party steering group to fully identify where survivors have been failed and what needs to be done to address it. Well, no, Councillor Helen Bishop, I do not agree with you or AROOJ SHAH or any one of the Pakistani rape gang protectors. I want justice. I don't want you to have lessons learned through a so-called cross-party review of secret meetings that you and your mates have. I want the government called in. I want a public inquiry, and I would believe that tens of thousands of my townsfolk also want a public inquiry. And if this is the Liberal Democrat position, we will fight you just as we fought the Labour Party on every street, in every community, in every ward. We will put through leaflets with your picture on it saying, here is the Liberal Democrat spokesperson siding with AROOJ SHAH and the Pakistani rape gang protectors from the Labour Party, who do not want a public inquiry but instead want a cross-party steering group to fully identify where survivors have been failed and what needs to be done to address it. Well, it's pretty obvious where survivors have been failed, because what happened to them was covered up, and it was covered up because they were white working class girls and the perpetrators were mainly Pakistani, occasionally Bangladeshi, almost inclusively Muslim Labour Party supporters who delivered a block vote, and those who refused to investigate either did so because of political convenience or because they were fearful of being called racist and losing their jobs, or a combination of both. And this town is far too gone for you and your kind to blackmail us, harass us, intimidate us, bully us into a position where we are forced to support this nonsense cross-party steering group, because we will not now, not next week, not next May, not next general election, never. We will continue to campaign for a public inquiry, and Helen Bishop, as a white working class woman, you should be ashamed of yourself. Councillor Bishop, my arse, you are a disgrace. You and your kind are a disgrace if you believe that we now need to move on and somehow we should stop campaigning for a public inquiry because the government said no. Do you think the people for the Hillsborough campaign gave up because the government said no? The woman is a disgrace. Councillor Helen Bishop is a disgrace. She got elected because she switched sides from being an independent to a Lib Dem, cozied up with Hamdani and KENYAN. And now she thinks she's some sort of spokesperson, lead on child sex exploitation and telling other councillors from other parties what to do. Those of you who watched the council meeting on Wednesday would have noticed the absence of people on the top table. First of all, and the obvious absence is Dr. Zahid Chowan, and we all know why he's absent. His wife is very ill, and we all understand that and support him and his family during this very difficult time. So what I make reference to now has absolutely got nothing to do with Dr. Zahid Chowan. I'm sure you all, we are human beings and we would not wish this on anyone. The other absence, notable absence, was Harry Caffrell. He is the chief executive. There are stories going around that he's apparently on holiday. Now let me clarify something with you. There are only 6 full council meetings throughout the year. It is the chief executive's role to be at all of them, and there are specific windows available for holidays. It's like a teacher going on holiday during exam season. It wouldn't happen, would it? Harry Caffrell, I do not believe he's on holiday. I think he's already been pushed along and is missing in action. There is not a chance in hell the chief executive of a council on £200,000 plus a year should be on holiday when he should be in the council chamber for one of 6 mandatory council meetings, full council meetings. So that's where I think Harry Caffrell is. I don't think you'll see him in November either. Remember, he's meant to finish at Christmas. I don't think you'll see him in November either. Likewise, for those of you eager-eyed who follow these council meetings, on the end next to Paul Entwistle normally is Elizabeth Drogan, the Director of Constitutional Services. Elizabeth Drogan was not sat there, although she was at the meeting. She was sat behind the councillors, hiding in the back. You'll have to ask her why she wasn't sat on her customary position at the top table. I don't know. I genuinely don't know why she wasn't sat in her customary position. But this was the council meeting where everything was chaotic yet again. Her department had responsible for at least a number of things that went wrong in the council meeting. On Wednesday, one of them was sending these letters out that caused chaos. Warren Bates and Peter Brown. Now, the other main thing out of this meeting on Wednesday, was you saw Councillor Mark Hince yet again standing up to be counted. And I will play exactly what happened with Councillor Hince so we get it properly.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I, along with many others within the borough, were horrified to read the Ofsted report on the recent SEND inspection, which has identified that this council has yet again failed vulnerable children. Prior to the inspection, it was communicated by both the Managing Director of Children and Young People and the Director of Education, Skills and Early Years that, and I quote, "We are confident we have a lot of excellent practice to showcase." Unfortunately, Ofsted's conclusion was there are widespread and/or systematic failings leading to significant concerns about the experiences and outcomes of children and young people with special educational needs and/or disabilities, which the local area partnership, i.e. this council, must address urgently. Yet again, this highlights the gap between the delusional mindset of the council's senior officers and leadership against the painful reality of those parents and carers effectively at their mercy when seeking services and safeguarding for their children, whether it be from grooming gangs or, as it is now, by inept delivery of services to those who need it most. So my question is simple. Who in the leadership of this council is willing to take responsibility and apologise for this latest monstrous failure? Thank you.
Okay, so you saw Councillor Markins ask a very direct and powerful question. Who in the leadership is going to take responsibility? You will have noticed he did not mention any officers' names or anything like that. And he did not criticise or disrespect anyone where any objection should be taken. But AROOJ SHAH, just as Councillor Shahid Mushtaq, this is a tactic. This is a Labour Party tactic of trying to silence the opposition, is to play the victim. And at each council meeting you will have seen these people play the victim, and this latest council meeting is another one where they immediately play the victim. Now listen to AROOJ SHAH's response.
I call upon Councillor Shah to reply.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor His for his question. But before I respond, I will say, make a request to members across the chamber. I think it's legitimate to attack political opponents on areas of policy. I think that's fine. I think it's legitimate for members to raise their concerns about services that they are disappointed with. But I think it's illegitimate and unfair and not nice and unkind and goes against every and all the values that we believe in when we criticise officers in the way that we do.
Okay, first of all, do you see what she did? Not nice. Well, you're not nice, AROOJ SHAH. You had me falsely arrested. You posted love hearts to the offer of my murder. You're not a nice woman, AROOJ SHAH. You're far from nice. And this town will remove the Labour Party from control of this council by making sure everyone in this town, in the Labour Party seats that we target, clearly we can't target St Mary's in Glodwick where the Pakistani bloc vote is all powerful. But in Chadderton Central, we will use you to take out your mate Elaine Taylor. In Chadderton North, we will use you to take out your mate Eddie Mayers, the mayor. Oh yeah. We'll do the same across the board where we can. Ross Birch in Waterhead. Is it Fryer? In Failsworth West? We will take seat after seat, not just by attacking the councillors who are standing, but by raising awareness of who you are and how not a nice person you are. Unkind indeed. Now what you've got to understand is she tried to flip it. Markins did not make any reference to any council officer at all. And for her to get up and say this, he'll come. Mark will get better. He's doing very, very well, but he'll get better. At this exact point, he should have shouted point of order or a point of clarification, whatever it is, but he should have interjected and said, at no point have I been not nice or unkind to any council officer. And even if Markins had, that is the right place to raise it. These are council officers on 120, 30, 40, 50,000 pounds a year. Heads of department, directors of department. That is the place to raise it. Ofsted identified systematic failings. Not, oh, a little bit went wrong here. Oh, something could have been better there. No. Systematic failings. And these systematic failings have been ongoing for a number of years, affecting children, failing children. And it's right to criticise, and it's also right to hold those responsible. But what Markins did in his second full council meeting, what Markins did was he humiliated AROOJ SHAH and forced her to apologise, but more than just forcing her to apologise, she is taking responsibility. So if she's taking responsibility and these failings continue, then surely she has to resign. Because that's what taking responsibility means, doesn't it? That's exactly what they want. If you can't raise it in a full council meeting, then where? And you're right, Denise. Unkind. I don't care if I'm unkind to her or anyone on her side, because the purpose of the opposition is to hold them to account, and you don't do it like snivelling Sheldon does it, I went to Glodick. Ooh, did you, Graham? How was it? Was it okay for you? Because that's what they want. They don't want the likes of Markins. They don't want the likes of Lewis Quigg or Dave Arnott.
This is a political forum for councillors. You know, officers aren't here. They don't have the right of reply, and it's massively unfair. I don't believe anybody, and I've said this, I can't remember how many times, comes to work to do a bad job. Elected members are...
But what if they do come to work and do a bad job? How many council officers have been sacked? This is one of the... On record, this is one of the worst councils in the country. Yes, one of the worst councils in the country. Across the board. So if it's one of the worst councils in the country, and the council officers are responsible for delivering the services that has resulted in it becoming one of the worst councils in the country, well then how many council officers have faced this disciplinary action and been sacked? How many council officers have been sacked? Someone put an FOI request in. How many council officers have been sacked in the year April the 1st of, 31st of March, 2023, 2022, 2021, go back 3 years. How many council officers have been sacked? This is a council that rewards failure, and it rewards failure because whilst the council officers are failing, the councillors themselves can get away with doing whatever they want.
Across this chamber, regardless of what colour rosette they wear, we might have different ideologies, but we don't come here to do a disservice to our residents. And I just think a little bit of respect for councillor officers will go a long way.
Why will it go a long way? Why will a little bit of respect for council officers go a long way? A long way to what? A long way to more systematic failings? Markins stood up and said the leader, the council officer in charge, and that's Gerard Jones from what I can work out, sent an email out saying everything's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We've got lots of good things to show. And Ofsted came back and said, systematic failings. That shows delusions on behalf of the most senior council officer. You earn respect. Is that earning respect? Is trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the people you represent an act of respect? Does anyone think that woman there, AROOJ SHAH, has any respect for anyone in that council chamber? Do you think her Labour Party colleagues have respect for those of us who are fighting for a public inquiry into the cover-up and grooming and gang rape of our town's children? Do you think they have respect for members of the public, the way they answer public questions by refusing to answer them?
Especially when most of our officers are residents too. But I can't pretend that I wasn't disappointed in the outcome of the recent scent inspection by Ofsted. So I do...
Sorry, I'm disappointed. I was blowing my nose and I put it on mute and I didn't unmute it. I'm disappointed. She used the word disappointed. I'm disappointed when I wake up in the morning and I was hoping the sun would be out and it's rained. That's when I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. Oh, what a word to use. Systematic failings, and she's saying she's disappointed. Her council officer in charge, the director of services, has pulled the wool over the eyes of a councillor, the entire council. Ofsted comes back with systematic failings, and AROOJ SHAH is disappointed. She's not appalled, she's not horrified, she's not mortified, she's just disappointed. Disappointed. But not only is she disappointed, she'll then try and spread the blame elsewhere. Listen, she'll try and spread the blame elsewhere.
I understand why Councillor Haynes would raise this today, and he's right to do so. Not for us as a council, and not for officers, and not for anybody else, but for all those families and young people who we support through those services. The safety and care of all Oldham's residents is a top priority for us. So we've taken the feedback from that report extremely, extremely seriously.
She's taken the feedback extremely, extremely seriously. She's taken the feedback extremely, extremely seriously. So seriously, it's extremely. And yes, you can see you're reading from a script because what they have is pre-prepared responses on issues they think might come up, and they shuffle whatever they need to try and do that. She's taken the feedback. Her council have taken the feedback extremely seriously. If you've taken the feedback extremely seriously, Councillor AROOJ SHAH, where is your statement? Where is your council's statement? Where is your apology? Why is Councillor Hints having to raise it? Where is your apology? Where is Mohan Ali, who's responsible? Where is Gerard Jones, who's responsible? Where are the action plans? Where are the urgent meetings with the hundreds of parents who've been failed? I bet the parents of 10 children would like to meet her and hear why she's disappointed. Indeed, Denise. I've been trying to help my goddaughter get an assessment now for God knows how long, and that's me. My nephew needs assessing, and they've been running rings round her mum, my sister. They are an absolute joke. They are an absolute joke. Oh, is he sat at the back? So he's sat at the back there. Well, Drogan was sat there, wasn't she? She sat at the back as well. But she's disappointed. Disappointed.
The report did highlight what is working well and what more needs to be done to protect this fund.
The report is? Did you just try that on? The report did highlight what is working well. The report condemned it. Condemned the provision. The report highlighted what is working well.
Group, children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities. We're glad inspectors recognise the progress that has been made since the last inspection in 2019.
Apparently, the inspectors recognise the progress that has been made since 2019. Yet the report from 2017 shows the same levels of systematic failings. Complete failings. Under your watch, wasn't it as well, Shah? Are you going to resign? No, of course not. Oh, I've got a great idea. Let's set up a shisha bar support scheme for SEND kids and show that off as a model of good practice. Absolute disgusting, disgraceful so far response. Or am I being unkind? Am I being unkind? I don't care if I'm being unkind. I'm not here to be kind. I'm here to fight for my town and for the people of my town and for all of those that this council has failed, is continuing to fail, exploit, abuse and take advantage of.
But the report did clearly indicate and identify some significant areas that we must address with the NHS as soon as possible. This is a partnership agreement.
Oh, this is a partnership agreement. This is a partnership. It's a partnership. It's not all our fault. It's somebody else's fault as well. This is a partnership. Just look at the state of that. Just look at the state of that. Look, she is fuming, isn't she? She is absolutely fuming that she's been held to account.
Been sent on us. It's the council and the health service, and we will be holding people to account and putting in governors.
We will be holding people to account. Who exactly are the people she will be holding to account? Because it's the council. It's the council who are responsible. Who will she be holding to account? How will she holding these people to account? Inviting them round for a mocktail? Checking to see how many postal votes they might have before they, do anything? How will you be holding anyone to account?
Structures that means that we do the best for our residents. These improvements include urgently identifying and addressing delays and gaps in access to health services. It is unacceptable that children are waiting too long for speech and language therapy. It is unacceptable that...
Can you see? She's reading from a script again. Can you see? She's gone back to... Excuse me, you'll have to ignore my... I've not been there very well. You can see she's gone back to scripting, reading off a script again. Have a look. Reading off a script again. You can see her. That someone else has written. reading off a script. That's how sincere she is.
Wait too long for mental health support, and this council has to lead the improvements that are needed. And in that regard, I have no issue, Councillor Hinds, in standing up and apologising for them failings, because I do see it my responsibility to hold us to account and our health partners in this. We're working alongside the NHS to deliver and oversee an improvement plan and address all the feedback we've been given. We're also working with Point and Oldham Parent Carer Forum to ensure the views of parents, carers, children and young people influence that improvement to ensure that they get the services that they deserve. In terms of the...
Do you see? Reading off a script. Just reading off a script.
Thank you. So in terms of the last part of Councillor Hinds' question, I have said that when he asked who will apologise, the answer is I will. You know, on behalf of the partnership, and then also say that I will ensure that the improvement plan is delivered and that progress is reported to all councillors as it should be done, and all residents, and particularly those who need and use the services. Thank you.
So apparently there's going to be an improvement plan, and that improvement plan is going to be communicated to all councillors. Well, come on. Where's the improvement plan? Because when the Ofsted report was published, when you and I saw the Ofsted report published, that's not the published date that they got it. They got the draft long before then. So where's the improvement plan? Where is the improvement plan? How will it be communicated? Does anyone have any confidence in a chief executive, Gerard Jones? We sent an email out believing he was up here, and Ofsted came and said he couldn't be any worse. Would you have him responsible for an improvement plan? If it was your business, would you have him responsible for an improvement plan? Can you imagine the response with no, Amy, racism, racism. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Sexism, misogyny. Oh, that might not work. That'd be the response, mate. Unkind, you're being unkind. If Mark Hinds hadn't asked that question, if Mark Hinds, the Sean Crompton Independent, who's the leader of that group, of Maggie Hurley and Sandra, hadn't asked that question, no one would have attempted to hold this Labour Party Council to account for Ofsted's inspection, identifying systematic failings in supporting children with special education needs and disabilities in this town. And that is why, if we do nothing else, if we achieve nothing else as a collective, and last Wednesday, this Wednesday just gone, was to be the height of everything we've achieved, then that's fine by me. We forced the leader of Oldham Council to stand up and apologise. We forced the previous leader to stand up and apologise for failing to protect children from being gang raped. And we forced this council leader to stand up and apologise for failing children, her council failing children with special educational needs and disabilities. And now what she's confirmed here in a council meeting in front of everyone, including all the other councillors, is that they will be held to account if they fail to improve. And that improvement plan will be published, and progress will be reported against. Well, first of all, with the improvement plan, it's got to be approved to be fit for purpose. So where is that improvement plan? How long before it comes out? And how long before we see the changes? Because Ofsted said urgent. This was urgent.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.